All right, welcome back to Central Valley Buzz, everybody. I'm your host, Chuck Leonard, and it's time to go to Old Town Mariposa with my good friend, Bob Borchard from Bet's Gold Coin. Bobby, how's it going?
It's going really good.
Nice to see you.
And I'm so encouraged that we don't have to do this old friend thing.
Well, you know, I didn't want anybody to think that I was insinuating anything about your age. Now, who'd you bring with you today, Bob?
I brought a young old friend, Bridget. I've known Bridget since she was a little girl. In fact,
Bridget,
her dad,
welcome to the Buzz. Thank you for coming.
Pleasure to
her
meet you.
dad
Thanks
and
for
I were
having me.
really good friends. And Bridget Bridget plays a really important role in our community and actually in the Central Valley with respect to conservation. And I don't think people really understand what, you hear that word conservation, but Bridget is here to explain how this really has meaning and importance and value, not just in our Mariposa County area, but throughout the San Joaquin Valley. So
That's right. Yeah. So I'm Bridget Fithian, and I work for Sierra Foothill Conservancy, which is our local land trust. And so we work in Mariposa, Madera, Fresno, and eastern Merced counties. And we do land conservation. And so what that means is we work with private landowners to either purchase properties that then become nature preserves, or we partner with them to do conservation easements. And conservation easements keep private lands in private hands, but keep them permanently conserved as well.
So why is it that you're going in and purchasing land off of private landowners to make into nature preserves? I don't understand.
So there's a real need for long-term conservation in our region. So we want to make sure we've got habitat for wildlife from here in perpetuity. So our mission and the work that we do is in perpetuity. That's forever, which is a really, really long time. And as the world changes and develops, and lands are converted to different uses, we need to make sure we have habitat conserved for species and also for people. So connecting outside is an important thing for...
One of the things that happens here is that when you talk about conservation, in the Central Valley, I've been working in the Central Valley for the last 25 years. Ag land conversion into urban uses has been something that you've heard a lot about. What these people are doing is buying the development rights on these ranches in large measure. And so they're not really buying the property per se, but what they're doing is they're buying the right to develop that property. So that
no one else will. Is that right?
Right. So for instance, in Mariposa County, there's a family that has been ranching for multiple generations, and they're called the Longs, is their last name, Frank and Francis Long.
And Marshall is going to be on our show in a few weeks, the son of Frank. And I told you before that that's where I was introduced to clamperdom, out at the Long Ranch.
Uh-huh.
And that's where we have our Civil War reenactment.
Right.
Out on the Long Ranch.
So
but
the
anyway.
conservation easement, as Bob was sharing, we've purchased the development rights so that property is always going to remain an intact working ranch and continue to provide the habitat for ranching in our community, as well as for wildlife. And then there's also these community events that take place. And just to speak to the Civil War reenactment, I was out with the reenactors a couple years ago and talking with them and sharing with them about the conservation easement and conserving these places, and they were like, that is great, because they're losing their places for reenactment, because as more development goes in around these places, they're shooting off cannons, and they're, having this reenactment of warfare, and people don't want that near their homes.
So let's talk about exactly what it is that you're trying to conserve when you're purchasing these lands. Is it animals? Is it trees and flowers? What is it that you're doing?
So it's all of the above. And so the habitat of a property might include the water resources, all of the ecosystems there, so trees, the wildlife, the water resources, and then also the human uses of that land. So with ranching, that's the typical partners that we work with are ranchers, because really it's compatible, rangeland practices and wildlife habitat, those are compatible things.
So, as I'm listening to this, I'm just sitting here thinking, gosh, this is really great. And then I'm thinking, how is this funded?
Yeah, so it's a combination. We're a nonprofit organization, and so we're funded through a variety of sources. The donations that individuals give to our organization, we have donors and we have members. And I actually brought a copy of our membership brochure. This is a good opportunity to just open this up and show you all. Membership is a critical part of funding the work that we do, and people can join Sierra Foothill Conservancy at www.sierrafoothill.org. We also get grants, and so our staff will write grants to state, federal, and different funding sources that have programs that will fund the purchase of conservation easements and the other programs that we run. And then we also have endowments that will come with the properties. So we kind of have this multi-leg thing funding the organization. It's always a dance.
Who started this?
Well, there's a group of individuals in the Prather area, so eastern Fresno County. That's where we were born. And there were 2 preserves at that time that the Nature Conservancy owned, and they were kind of changing their practices and were going to be divesting themselves, giving the property away to someone else. And there's a community of people who did volunteer work there. They maintained fences, they led hikes and classes, and they were like, what? You're going to be getting rid of this property? And so they tried to figure out what they could do and found out that they could form a land trust. And so the land trust was formed by this group of people who were connected to these properties and wanted to take over the care of them and the stewardship of them. So they incorporated and became a nonprofit organization, took on those 2 properties, and since then we've conserved 25,000 acres.
Wow.
So yeah, which is an area that's roughly the size of Paris with all of its boroughs. So just to give you like,
and it looks a lot like
sense.
Paris, doesn't it?
And it's
Now-
I'm also saying that because Mrs. Tomsick is your next guest, and she's a French teacher.
Let's talk about the memberships, because
Yeah.
this is one way that people can get involved, and then we'll talk about what happens after they become a member.
Okay, great. So this is one way people can get involved and support the mission, is to become a member. And then other ways that people can get involved is by joining the hikes and classes, the programming that we have and host on properties that we've conserved. And so we have a couple opportunities coming up. We have a trail ride that's going to be on our McKenzie Preserve, and this is only for experienced horseback riders. But that will be December 6th on the McKenzie Preserve, and we just had one actually November 8th that went really well, and people were ready to get out there again.
How long of a ride is it?
I think it's a 6-mile loop, something like that. It's relatively short, but the next one they're actually going to go on top of the mesa. So Table Mountain is a flat mesa top, and when you get on top of the table, you can see the whole Central Valley down
Nice.
below you. It's really amazing. The whole San Joaquin River Gorge going down. You can see into Fresno, and you can see the Sierra Mountains to the east. So
How beautiful.
It's really
And
gorgeous.
what time of day is that?
And that's going to be, I think they're leaving at 9 a.m. They'll be meeting at the McKenzie Preserve. We have people register in advance, and that can be done again on our website at sierrafoothill.org. And we also ask that people make a contribution to the organization. So, $15 suggested donation to support the mission.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes.
Do you go?
I haven't been, but one of these days I hope to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You can borrow my horse.
We'll have to get Bob out there.
Okay.
Maybe you can do a show
You should
from the
do is you
McKenzie.
get Bob out there on the
yeah.
back of his llama.
I don't know if you ride a llama. Is that a rideable animal?
No,
I
that's
didn't
not.
think
We
so.
use them for pack animals.
Yeah. We can pack lunch on
You
the
know,
llama.
We have a few minutes left, and I want to, I've worked with this group, or your sister agency up in Stanislaus County, and Stanislaus, San Joaquin. They have some very aggressive land conservation programs up there, and ag land conversion has become a question of public policy. And one of the things that they're doing up in those counties, and I think Merced has looked at this, is that when somebody has taken farmland and wants to convert it into urban uses or non-agricultural uses, they have to participate in a conservation program, and that is part of a state law with respect to ag land and farmland conservation. And so what the group, the conservation group, has done is created a vehicle where people who do want to do development can take land that frankly isn't really all that great for development and dedicate it for preservation of ag practices, and typically this land has other types of sensitivity to it. You know, I'm a planner by trade, so
That's right.
I just come on this show to give you a bad time about the planters.
Well,
but the reality is that a lot of this land is not good. It has some very serious environmental constraints, and by buying out the development rights to it, you, one, have avoided some echo types of problems, and two, you've put some money into a farmer's pocket, which helps them expand and develop their agricultural operation, and so it's
And they get to hold on to this land too, right?
Right.
They hold on
Yeah.
to the land, you guys hold on to the rights and make sure that it stays the way it is.
Exactly.
So.
But
That's the name of the game.
developers on other agricultural land help subsidize that agricultural operation by contributing to the fund that the conservation group is operating on that buys these development rights. So this is kind of a critical cog in a major public policy operation with respect to conservation of ag land. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bridget, thanks a lot. It's
Thank you for
really
having
cool
me.
talking to you.
Yeah,
Now we're going to
thank
take a
you.
quick commercial break, but we're not leaving Mariposa. We're staying here, and we'll be right back with Bob's next guest. Stick around.